Beloved, today I want to speak directly to the fire that God has placed within you, a fire that longs for purpose, for greatness, for a life that refuses to be ordinary. Too many of God's children walk through life following rules that were never meant to confine them, living in patterns that limit their potential, settling for mediocrity while God has designed them for extraordinary impact. But I am here to tell you it is time to break the rules. Not the rules of righteousness, not the commandments of God, but the rules of fear, limitation, doubt, and man-made expectations that have held you back from stepping fully into your destiny. There is a divine invitation written in Romans 1:22 that says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." God is calling you to a higher standard, a life that refuses to be dictated by the ordinary, the familiar, or the safe. He is calling you to challenge every limitation that has been placed upon your mind, your purpose, and your future. You were never created to be average. You were created to change history, to influence generations, and to leave a legacy that declares the power of God at work in your life. Hear me clearly, breaking the rules is not rebellion against God. It is obedience to his higher purpose. It is refusing to let fear, failure, or tradition dictate your path. It is stepping out of the shadows of what others think you can be and walking boldly into the destiny that God has ordained for you. Every moment you spend living under limitation is a moment wasted, a moment where potential is imprisoned. But today, God is giving you permission to break free, to think differently, to act boldly, and to rewrite the story of your life. As we journey together in this message, I want you to open your mind, stretch your imagination, and allow the Spirit of God to challenge every boundary you have accepted as truth. This is a call to courage, to faith, and to action. It is a call to reject the ordinary and embrace the extraordinary. The rules that once held you back were never your design. They were human constructs born of fear, doubt, and limitation. God has given you authority to rise above them, to walk in freedom, and to pursue a future that defies expectation. Beloved, I urge you, prepare your heart to be transformed. Prepare your mind to think beyond what has been acceptable. Prepare your spirit to move in boldness. Today, we will explore how to break limiting patterns, step out in faith, embrace risk, and persist with relentless determination. By the end of this message, you will not only see a new way of living, you will be equipped to rewrite your future in a manner that honors God, impacts the world, and fulfills your divine purpose. The time for hesitation is over. The time for fear is past. God is calling you to step into your extraordinary life. Let us begin. Beloved, the first step to rewriting your future begins in your mind. Romans 22 tells us, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." This is not a suggestion. This is a command from God for anyone who desires to live a life of power, purpose, and impact. To challenge conventional thinking means to refuse to accept limitations simply because they are popular, familiar, or widely accepted. The world has a way of convincing us that we must walk in the patterns of mediocrity, that we must follow the path already paved by others, and that the safe, ordinary way is sufficient. But God is calling you to think differently, to rise above the common, and to see possibilities that others cannot even imagine. When you challenge conventional thinking, you are asserting authority over your life. You are refusing to let the opinions of men, the fear of failure, or the pressure of tradition dictate your future. Too many people live under the illusion that life must follow a predetermined pattern: go to school, get a job, settle down, and accept whatever comes. But God's plan for your life is not bound by human expectation. Transformation begins in the mind, and your mind is the battlefield where your future is determined. If you continue to think as the world thinks, you will continue to live as the world lives, limited, constrained, and unfulfilled. Challenging conventional thinking requires courage, clarity, and conviction. It requires you to examine every belief, every habit, and every assumption you have allowed to shape your life. Are your decisions based on fear or faith? Are your goals dictated by what others expect of you or by the purpose God has placed within you? The renewing of your mind is not a one-time event. It is a daily process of intentional thought, deliberate reflection, and bold rejection of anything that does not align with God's truth. You must consciously choose to embrace thoughts that empower, inspire, and elevate you toward your divine destiny. Beloved, understand that the mind shapes reality, what you think you will become. If your thoughts are limited, your future will be limited. If your imagination is small, your life will remain small. But when you challenge conventional thinking, you unlock creativity, innovation, and divine insight. You position yourself to see opportunities where others see obstacles, solutions where others see problems, and possibilities where others see impossibilities. This is the mindset of those who rise above mediocrity, the mindset of those who leave a legacy, the mindset of those who rewrite their future with purpose and power. To think beyond the status quo is to honor God's design for your life. He did not create you to follow the predictable patterns of the world. He created you to innovate, to lead, and to fulfill a purpose that only you can fulfill. Begin today to examine your thoughts, reject limitation, and embrace the freedom of God-inspired thinking. Your future is not defined by the past, by fear, or by the expectations of men. It is defined by the courage of your mind to challenge convention, to see beyond the ordinary, and to embrace the extraordinary path God has prepared for you. This is where transformation begins, within the renewing of your mind. Beloved, breaking limiting patterns is not optional for anyone who desires to live a life of divine purpose. It is essential. Too often, men and women of God allow fear, failure, and outdated traditions to dictate the course of their lives. They follow the rhythm of mediocrity because it is familiar, safe, and accepted by the world. But Philippians 13:14 commands us to forget what lies behind and strain forward toward the purpose that God has called us to fulfill. To break limiting patterns means to refuse to be imprisoned by the habits, beliefs, and norms that have held you captive. It is a conscious declaration that you will no longer let your past, other people's opinions, or fear of the unknown define your destiny. Every pattern you cling to, every habit born of comfort or conformity, has the potential to chain you to a life far beneath the calling God has placed upon you. Patterns of procrastination, fear of rejection, or over-reliance on human approval are barriers that must be shattered. You cannot step into greatness if your life is governed by limitations that you have accepted without challenge. Breaking these patterns requires intentionality, examining every area of your life, identifying behaviors and beliefs that restrain your progress, and choosing to replace them with habits, thoughts, and actions that propel you toward your divine purpose. Beloved, understand this: fear is the greatest pattern breaker blocker. Fear convinces you that staying in your comfort zone is safer than stepping into God's plan. Tradition often whispers that what has always been done is what must continue, yet God's ways are higher than man's ways. When you reject fear and challenge tradition with wisdom, you open doors to innovation, influence, and impact. You activate the supernatural ability of God to lead you beyond limitations. You become a person who does not accept "this is how it is" as a final answer. You become a person who asks, what is possible through God's power? Breaking limiting patterns is a spiritual exercise as much as it is a mental and emotional one. It demands faith, courage, and perseverance. It requires the willingness to stand alone, to think differently, and to act boldly even when others doubt or resist. Every step you take away from limitation is a step toward divine freedom, growth, and destiny. Refuse to allow fear or tradition to hold you back. Break the chains that bind your mind, your heart, and your actions. God has called you to a life unrestrained by human limitations, a life that is extraordinary, purpose-driven, and victorious. To rewrite your future, you must first break the patterns that have kept you trapped in yesterday. Beloved, stepping out in faith is where vision becomes reality and where dreams conceived in God's heart are birthed into the natural world. Hebrews 11:1 declares, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." Faith is not passive. It is not waiting quietly for life to happen. Faith is bold, active, and courageous. It compels you to move forward even when the path is unclear, even when the outcome is uncertain, and even when the world says it is impossible. To rewrite your future, you must take action that aligns with God's calling, trusting Him completely to lead, provide, and protect every step. Many Christians live in the shadows of what could have been because they refused to act. They saw opportunity, they had vision, but fear of failure, rejection, or criticism paralyzed them. But faith demands that you step beyond the visible, beyond comfort, and beyond the familiar. Bold action requires a mindset that says, "I will obey God's calling, even if I cannot see the full path ahead." Every great move of God in history began with someone daring to act in faith. Abraham left his homeland without knowing his destination. Moses led a nation despite uncertainty. David faced giants he had never seen before. Faith moves you into the territory of divine possibilities, where miracles are birthed, doors open, and breakthroughs occur. Stepping out in faith also requires resilience and perseverance. You will face opposition, doubt, and difficulty, but faith is unwavering confidence in God's promise. It is the courage to advance when logic says stop, and the boldness to act when circumstances appear impossible. Each step you take in faith, no matter how small, compounds into momentum that propels you toward destiny. Your faith is your vehicle, and action is the engine that drives it forward. Without bold action, vision remains a dream. Without faith, action becomes reckless. But with God, faith-filled action becomes unstoppable. Beloved, hear me clearly. God has called you to a life of impact, influence, and extraordinary purpose. That calling will not manifest through hesitation or passivity. It will only come to life through your willingness to break free from limitation, challenge fear, and act boldly in obedience to God's word. Today, let your faith compel you to take decisive steps, to move courageously, and to embrace uncertainty with confidence, knowing that the Creator of the universe is guiding every step. Your future is not a matter of chance, it is a matter of faith and action. Step out boldly and watch God rewrite your story. Beloved, too many people define success by the world's standards, wealth, status, popularity, or recognition. But Proverbs 6:63 tells us, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans. True success is never measured by applause, accolades, or the fleeting approval of men. True success is found in alignment with God's purpose for your life. To redefine success means to reject the shallow and temporary measures of the world and to embrace a vision that reflects divine intention. It requires a radical reorientation of priorities, values, and goals so that everything you do honors God and advances His plan for your life. Redefining success begins in the heart and mind. You must ask yourself, am I living to impress people, or am I living to fulfill the purpose God has placed within me? Am I chasing temporary gain, or am I investing in eternal impact? Aligning your vision with God's purpose requires intentionality. Every decision, every action, every relationship must be filtered through the lens of divine purpose. Success that is built on man's expectations is fragile, fleeting, and often empty. Success that is built on God's purpose is enduring, transformative, and overflowing with eternal significance. To live in alignment with God's purpose, you must first understand that your life is not your own. Every talent, every opportunity, every resource has been entrusted to you by the Creator. When you commit your plans to God, you are saying, Lord, I will no longer pursue what is convenient or popular. I will pursue what fulfills your design for me. This requires discipline, focus, and a willingness to do what others refuse to do. It requires courage to walk a path that may look unconventional to the world, but is divinely appointed. It means measuring success not by what others see, but by what God knows is true in your heart. Redefining success also demands patience and trust. God's purpose is perfect, but it often requires time, preparation, and refinement. You cannot rush the process or settle for shortcuts. You must dedicate yourself to growth, character, and excellence, knowing that every step taken in obedience brings you closer to your God-given destiny. Success is no longer an external measure. It becomes a reflection of your faithfulness, integrity, and alignment with the divine plan. Beloved, hear me clearly. You were not created to live according to the world's script. You were created to fulfill a divine calling, to leave a legacy that honors God, and to impact generations through your obedience and purpose. When you redefine success according to God's standards, you step into a life that is limitless in potential, powerful in influence, and eternal in significance. Reject the world's shallow definitions. Embrace the call of God on your life. Align your vision with His purpose, and watch as every plan, every step, and every endeavor is established and confirmed by the hand of God. True success is not what men see, it is what God sees, and it is the life lived fully for Him. Beloved, God did not design your life to remain in the comfort zone. Joshua 1:9 declares, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. To embrace risk with wisdom is to recognize that every breakthrough, every monumental step toward your destiny requires stepping beyond the familiar and into the realm of possibility. Many people remain trapped by indecision, by the fear of failure, or by the illusion of security. But faith demands action, boldness, and calculated risk, knowing that God is your guide, your shield, and your strength in every venture. Embracing risk begins with understanding the divine principle of stewardship. God has placed talents, ideas, and opportunities within your hands. To ignore them out of fear is to squander what He has entrusted to you. But stepping forward with wisdom requires discernment. Not every risk is reckless. You must seek guidance through prayer, the counsel of the wise, and alignment with God's word. Risk without wisdom can lead to loss. Risk with divine insight can lead to exponential growth. True courage is rooted in confidence that God is with you and that obedience to his plan will always bring victory. Courage produces breakthroughs because it challenges the status quo. It forces you out of mediocrity, pushes you past limitations, and positions you for divine intervention. Those who embrace risk with wisdom understand that failure is not defeat, but a stepping stone toward refinement and mastery. Every act of faith in the face of uncertainty expands your capacity, shapes your character, and strengthens your resolve. God honors boldness when it is exercised in alignment with his purpose. He does not call you to passivity or complacency. He calls you to move, to advance, and to claim the promises that belong to you. Beloved, your destiny will never be fulfilled through hesitation. Waiting for the perfect conditions is a recipe for stagnation. The brave take steps even when the path is unclear because they understand that God's guidance is greater than human understanding. Courageous action opens doors that no human effort can unlock. It attracts divine favor, aligns circumstances, and draws resources in supernatural ways. Each calculated risk, taken in faith and guided by wisdom, is a seed planted for harvest. Breakthroughs often require boldness, yet the wisdom to act rightly ensures that every risk propels you closer to the destiny God has ordained for your life. Your future will not be won by timidity or caution. It will be won by the courage to step beyond limitation, the faith to act despite uncertainty, and the wisdom to align your actions with God's purpose. Embrace risk with divine insight, for it is the pathway to breakthroughs, transformation, and the extraordinary life God has designed for you. Beloved, persistence is the final ingredient in the recipe for rewriting your future. Galatians 6:9 reminds us, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." Persistence is not simply continuing in motion. It is enduring with purpose, faith, and discipline even when progress seems invisible. Many give up at the threshold of breakthrough because the waiting period challenges their patience, their resilience, and their resolve. But transformation comes to those who refuse to settle, who press forward, and who remain faithful to the process God has set in motion. To persist until transformation manifests requires a mindset of unwavering determination. You must view obstacles as temporary, challenges as training grounds, and setbacks as redirections rather than failures. Every delay, every trial, every season of testing is an opportunity for refinement. Persistence transforms character, strengthens faith, and aligns your heart with God's timing. The world measures success by immediate results, but God measures it by perseverance, integrity, and obedience under pressure. Those who persist, despite adversity, demonstrate a faith that is active, living, and unstoppable. Persistence also demands clarity of vision. You must know exactly what God has called you to become, and you must refuse to settle for anything less. Half-hearted effort produces half-hearted results. Divine transformation requires full commitment, relentless effort, and unwavering faith that God's promises will come to pass. The road may be difficult, and the journey may seem long, but every step taken in faith contributes to the unveiling of your destiny. Your breakthrough is not in the hands of men, it is in the hands of God, and persistence positions you to receive it fully. Beloved, hear me clearly, transformation is not accidental. It is deliberate. It is birthed from consistent effort, sustained faith, and a refusal to yield to fear, doubt, or distraction. Those who endure, who press forward, and who remain steadfast are the ones who inherit God's promises in their fullness. Your destiny will not wait for convenience. It will manifest for those who refuse to give up. Persist until every promise, every calling, and every vision God has placed in your heart comes to fruition. Do not settle for mediocrity. Do not compromise. Do not quit. Your future is waiting on your faithfulness, and persistence is the bridge between vision and victory. Beloved, stand firm, keep moving, and refuse to settle until transformation is complete. This is the pathway to extraordinary living, divine favor, and a legacy that will outlast time itself. Your destiny is worth the persistence. Your breakthrough is worth the fight. Press on and watch God rewrite your story into a testimony of power, purpose, and eternal impact. Beloved, as we bring this message to a close, I want you to hear this with the fullness of your spirit. Your life is not an accident. Your destiny is not random, and your future is not bound by the limitations of yesterday. God has placed within you a purpose, a vision, and a calling that is far greater than anything the world can define. Every principle we have discussed, the challenge of conventional thinking, breaking limiting patterns, stepping out in faith, redefining success, embracing risk, and persisting until transformation is not mere advice. It is the blueprint for unlocking the life God has already prepared for you. You are called to live boldly, courageously, and intentionally. To live as someone who refuses to be small, someone who refuses to accept mediocrity, someone who refuses to settle for what is easy or convenient. Hear me clearly, God does not reward comfort, He rewards courage. He does not elevate the passive, He elevates the faithful. Every breakthrough, every victory, every manifestation of your divine purpose is birthed from action. Not just random action, but deliberate, faith-filled action aligned with God's word and God's will. Transformation begins in your mind, is fueled by courage, and is sustained by persistence. When you challenge the status quo, break patterns that limit you, and act boldly, you position yourself to receive the supernatural favor, wisdom, and power of God. Your life is meant to be extraordinary, but extraordinary living requires extraordinary obedience, extraordinary focus, and extraordinary faith. Redefine what success means for you. Let it not be measured by applause, wealth, or human approval, but by alignment with God's purpose, by faithfulness in small and great things, and by the fruit your life produces for eternity. Embrace risk with wisdom, knowing that every step into the unknown taken in obedience is a step toward breakthroughs that could never come through comfort. Persist until transformation manifests. Do not allow discouragement, doubt, or delay to steal the promises that God has placed within your reach. Your breakthrough is closer than you think, but it will only come to those who refuse to quit, those who press forward when it seems impossible, those who understand that God's timing is perfect. Beloved, this is your moment. Today, you have been reminded that your destiny is too important to leave to chance, that your future is too valuable to live in hesitation, and that your calling is too powerful to allow fear or limitation to define you. Stand up, align yourself with God's plan, act boldly, and persist relentlessly. Your life can be rewritten. Your purpose can be fulfilled. Your future can be extraordinary. Thank you, beloved, for giving your attention, your heart, and your spirit to this message. May the principles we have explored ignite a fire within you that will not be quenched. May you rise each day with courage, clarity, and commitment to the purpose God has placed within you. May your thoughts, your actions, and your faith align with His will, producing a life of impact, influence, and legacy. Go forth boldly, live intentionally, rewrite your future, and may God bless you abundantly, guide your steps, and empower you to fulfill every promise He has placed in your life. Thank you.